Hello everyone, welcome to LBS IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss economics MCQs based on previous year UPSC questions. So let's start our session. Our first question is, when the Reserve Bank of India reduces statutory liquidity by 50 basis points, which of the following is likely to happen? Options are, India's GDP growth rate increases drastically, that is incorrect. Foreign institutional investors may bring more capital into our country, incorrect. Scheduled commercial banks may cut their lending rates, that is correct. So your answer to this question is option C. Statutory liquidity ratio is the minimum percentage of deposits that a commercial bank has to maintain in the form of liquid cash, gold or other securities. That is basically the reserve requirement that banks are expected to keep before offering credit to customers. If SLR is reduced, banks have to part lesser money with RBI in form of securities, cash, etc. So they have more money to lend, and the return on lending is also greater than what they get in SLR. If the lending rate is reduced by the bank to some extent, their profitability won't be hampered in case of reduction in SLR rate. Reduction in SLR is done by RBI to increase liquidity in the market. It's a tool to manage inflation rate. The SLR is fixed by the RBI and is a form of control over credit growth in India. The government uses the SLR to regulate inflation and fuel costs. Increasing the SLR will control inflation in the economy, while decreasing the SLR results in increased investment and it leads to fuel growth and demand. The SLR was prescribed by Section 24 2A of Banking Regulation Act 1949. So her answer to this question is options. Next is, a decreasing tax to GDP ratio of a country indicates which of the following? Slowing economic growth rates, that is correct. Less equitable distribution of national income, that is incorrect. So her answer to this question is option A. Statement 1 only is correct. If India's tax to GDP ratio is 20%, it means that government gets 20% of its GDP as tax contribution. The tax to GDP ratio is used to compare tax receipts from year to year. As taxes are related to economic activity, the ratio should stay relatively consistent. When the GDP grows, tax revenue should increase as well. Economic slowdown results in lower rates of growth, where unemployment usually rises and consumer spending decreases. As a result, tax to GDP ratio declines. Hence, statement 1 is correct. The less equitable distribution of national income is not directly related to decrease in tax to GDP ratio. Equal distribution of national income and resource allocation generally depends upon the economic planning of a country. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. So, her answer to this question is option A. Next is, in the index of 8 core industries, which one of the following is given the highest weightage? Options are coal production, electricity generation, fertilizer production, steel production. Here, answer to this question according to the options given is electricity generation. These industries comprise a total of 40.27% of the total weight of overall items that are included in the index of industrial production list. In the index of 8 core industries, the highest weightage is currently possessed by refinery products industry. Earlier, the highest weightage was given to electricity industry. In the decreasing order of the weightage of these industries, the list is like the highest weightage is for refinery products and second highest weightage is for electricity. Then steel, coal, crude oil, natural gas, cement and fertilizer. So her answer to this question is option B. Next is, the fair and remunerative price of sugarcane is approved by Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, that is correct. So her answer to this question is option A. Fair and remunerative price is the price declared by the government which mills are legally bound to pay to the farmers for products procured from them. It has been determined on the recommendations of CACP, that is Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices, and announced by CCEA, that is Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. CACP recommends the fair and remunerative prices based on intercrop price parity, inflation considerations, fair return to farmers, and a host of other factors. So it is the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs that finally approves it. So our answer to this question is option. Next is, which one of the following issues the Global Economic Prospects report periodically? Options are Asian Development Bank, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, US Federal Reserve Bank and World Bank. Here, answer to this question is option D, World Bank. According to latest report, global economy will come perilously close to a recession this year, led by weaker growth in all world's top economies. Latest report indicates a sharp, long-lasting slowdown with global growth declining to 1.7% in 2023 from 3% expected. Global economy is projected to 1.7% in 2023 and 2.7% in 2024. It would be the third weakest annual expansion in 3 decades, behind only the deep recession that resulted from the 2008 global financial crisis and the coronavirus pandemic in 2020. IMF had previously said that global growth is forecast to slow from 6% in 2021 to 3.2% in 2022 and 2.7% in 2023. Unexpectedly, rapid and synchronous global monetary policy tightening contributed to a significant worsening of global financial conditions, and the Ukraine war also. So your answer to this question is option D. Next is, which of the following brings out the consumer price index number for the industrial workers? Options are RBI, Department of Economic Affairs, Labour Bureau, Department of Personnel and Training. The answer to this question is option C, Labour Bureau. Consumer Price Index is a measure of change in retail prices of goods and services consumed by defined population group in a given area with reference to a base year. This basket of goods and services represents the level of living or the utility derived by the consumers at given levels of their income, prices and status. Consumer Price Index numbers for industrial workers is released by Labour Bureau. It tries to measure the alterations over a time period on the prices of a fixed basket of goods and services utilized by industrial workers. Presently, the consumer price indices compiled in India are CPI for industrial workers, CPI for agricultural laborers and rural laborers and urban laborers. So, your answer to this question is option C. Next is the terms. Agreement on agriculture, agreement on the application of sanitary and phytosanitary measures, and peace clause are the affairs of which of the following? Food and Agricultural Organization, UNFCCC, WTO, UN Environment Program. The answer to this question is option C, WTO. The WTO Agreement on Agriculture provides a framework for the long-term reform of agricultural trade and domestic policies with the aim of leading to fairer competition and a less distorted sector. The WTO's agreement on the application of sanitary and phytosanitary measures aims to provide the balance between the right of governments to protect food safety, plant and animal health, and prevent these sanitary and phytosanitary measures from being unjustified trade barriers. Peace clause holds that domestic support measures and export subsidies of a WTO member, which are legal under the provisions of the Agreement on Agriculture, cannot be challenged by other WTO members on ground of being illegal under the provisions of another WTO agreement. So here answer to this question is option C. Next is convertibility of rupee implies. Here answer to this question is option C, that is freely permitting the conversion of rupee to other currencies and vice versa. Rupee convertibility means the system where any amount of rupee can be converted into any other currency without any question asked about the purpose for which the foreign exchange is to be used. Convertibility establishes a system where the marketplace determines the rate of exchange through the free interplay of demand and supply forces. Non-convertibility can generally be defined with reference to transactions for which foreign exchange cannot be legally purchased, that is, import of consumer goods, or transactions which are controlled and approved on a case-by-case like regulated import, etc. So, your answer to this question is option C. Next is, if the interest rate is decreased in an economy, it will, options are, decrease the consumption expenditure in the economy, increase the tax collection of the government, increase the investment expenditure in the economy, increase the total savings in the economy. The answer to this question is option C, increase the investment expenditure in the economy. Decreased interest rates would ensure availability of capital for investment expenditure. If the interest rate is decreased in an economy, people will deposit less money in the bank since they would not get high returns and borrow more money with a low interest rate. Hence, money supply in the market will increase. Decrease in interest rate in an economy will increase the money supply, thus increasing the investment and expenditure. With low interest rates, The bank will have more leverage to lend money to business and to citizens to purchase household items or to invest in productive things. Hence, the answer to this question is option C.